Statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
A couple days ago, I released a video on X. Very brief here. I'll show it to you. Released a video. There it is. Right there on X there. You see? Boom. Hey, I'm almost wearing the same thing. I'm wearing the same hat. Not the same shirt though. But all right. Released this video the other day. And in the video, basically what I told you was that our time together, at least on X, all right, our time together is sort of drawing to an end. You see, 2 years ago, I made a promise that I would dedicate time every single day. I would do my best to answer every DM, every response, every comment as it related to Bitcoin. I encourage that if anyone wanted to interact with me directly regarding Bitcoin, that you go over to X and you deal with me there. I didn't want to so much mix platforms. So I didn't want to mix my Bitcoin talk up with other platforms like Facebook and YouTube and whatever, Instagram, whatever. I wanted to dedicate Bitcoin only content to largely X. And so for the last 2 years, I've been doing that. And I made a promise that I would do it all the way until Bitcoin reached 100,000. I told people periodically, over and over again, that what I was doing was not sustainable. It's not sustainable, guys. I travel and I spend time on 3 different continents every single year. I do this triangle. I follow the sun, right? And I spend months in this continent, then months in that continent, months in another continent. I run a variety of businesses. I trade. I have traders to train. And I'm at an age where I'm not going to sit in front of a screen. I haven't done that in decades. I'm not going to sit in front of a screen all day like a lot of people on social media do. But I did say that I would do it until Bitcoin got to 100. I believe that we are nearing that period, that time. I actually made another post saying that I believed that Bitcoin would be past 100,000 by January 9th of 2025. And if that were not the case, I would fricking eat my shoe live right here. I'll eat it. I'll do it. But I know I won't have to. I believe very strongly that Bitcoin is past 100,000 before January 9th, 2025. So bookmark this, save this, hold me to it. Okay. I think that's relatively a stone's throw away. However, perhaps you need to start a world Bitcoin tour. Well, I did that. So obviously most of you aren't aware that I went to 17 different cities all over the world on a Bitcoin tour. I will post some photos and some videos to show you this. All right. It is largely after that tour that I largely decided that, okay, now I'm going to focus on leaving behind an electronic footprint oriented legacy of everything I believe, everything I feel up until this particular point about Bitcoin, so that there's always something to reference. You'll always be able to come back and find something that I said regarding a specific segment or aspect of Bitcoin. That's what I've wanted to do. But I will be somewhat moving on. Now, when I say I'm moving on, some people who haven't followed me for a while erroneously interpreted me leaving at 100,000 as me exiting Bitcoin, selling Bitcoin and moving on. That's just freaking idiotic. And anyone who's followed me for any little bit of time knows that sell Bitcoin to what? Sell it to what? For what? What do you sell the hardest asset on earth for? What do you sell what is in short order going to become the most valuable asset on planet Earth for? What do you sell it for? What do you sell number 1 for? Number 17? You don't sell it for anything, right? Bitcoin is the win. Bitcoin is the prize. So when you get it, you won. You won. You don't give it up again. So here's another guy, Oliver. You'll be relieved to know that I will be buying any of that Bitcoin that Oliver sells at 100. He assumes that I'm going to sell at 100. All right. He's going to be very disappointed. I told him I will never sell. Sell to what? All right. So I'm not selling Bitcoin. I'm just leaving the day-to-day grind that I promised that I would do. I'm not young like you guys are, guys. Do you have any content about living on the BTC standard? Are you trying to live off of Bitcoin exclusively? Are you cashing out into the asset classes? Are you actively spending Bitcoin or selling on an exchange and making traditional ACH transfers? Do you actually live off of BTC? How? No. The answer is no, 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 no. I talked about why I am not 100% Bitcoin. And I talked about the fact that I do never want to put myself in a position, guys, where I have to sell Bitcoin. This is not the period during Bitcoin's evolutionary journey to be selling Bitcoin, in my opinion. You can start selling Bitcoin at the medium of exchange period of its evolution. But Bitcoin's evolution goes over will occur over 4 different stages. First, a collectible. We're past the collectible stage. After a monies passes the collectible phase, it moves into the store of value phase. We are in the burgeoning store of value phase. Now, the store of value phase of the money is extraordinarily important because that's the period during which number go up is the most explosive. See, people think that we're going to experience diminishing returns for Bitcoin. I don't buy that nonsense. I believe that Bitcoin's best returns are in front of it, not behind it. No one in the world is going to tell me, Oliver, with less than 1% of the world owning Bitcoin, we are diminishing returns from here. Are you serious? Like, in what world does half of less than 1% adoption kick off diminishing returns? In what world? In what other asset? In what other thing that human beings have adopted where they're diminishing returns after 1% of the human race adopted it? We're still adopting fire after thousands of years of our first utilitarian use of fire. Thousands of years later, and human beings are still adopting fire. We're still adopting electricity. All right. There was no diminishing returns for the use of fire after 1% of the globe's population began using it. We're still accelerating. There was no diminishing returns as it related to the wheel, no diminishing returns as it related to the number 0, double entry accounting, no diminishing returns as it related to the printing press, electricity. No diminishing returns in anything human beings have ever adopted after 1% or less of the human race adopted it. So when people tell me that there's diminishing returns for Bitcoin going forward, I just think that they don't understand how human beings adopt things, that the most explosive adoption period is the middle, not the beginning 1%. It's the middle. And so because of this, I believe that the second phase, remember there's 4 phases. There's the collectible phase of adoption, or the trajectory of how something becomes a sound, complete form of money. It goes through 4 stages. Collectible, then it morphs into store of value. This store of value, all right? That store of value, you see that rocket ship? That's the number go up stage. Do you understand? That's the biggest number go up. Where that's in the middle. You understand? The middle. So we're just starting the middle part. We're just starting the store of value phase. Bitcoin just had its institutional IPO this year. Bitcoin just got institutional adoption. Bitcoin just got regulatory clarity. Bitcoin just got FASB rule changes that no longer make it punitive for a big portion of the race, which is corporations, companies, and institutions. They're part of the human race as well. They have social security numbers and tax ID numbers. They're living entities. And so we have to include them amongst the living things as well that adopt Bitcoin. And they just got that part of the human experience, just got regulatory clarity, just got FASB rule changes that favor holding Bitcoin. They just got spot Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin just got institutional adoption. For the first time, Bitcoin is on the ballot on the US presidential election talking points. So what I'm saying is we're just in the beginning. And so you don't have diminishing returns on something at the beginning. You have diminishing returns on something toward the ends of the middle. So the middle is the most explosive part. We haven't experienced Bitcoin's most explosive part yet, not with less than 1% of the world in. With that being said, I know I'm rambling a bit, but this is a very important point. With that being said, if the best is in front of us, why does it make sense? How does it make sense to get rid of this right now for something else? How does it make sense that I'm going to give up a lifetime of gains that nothing else will ever be able to compete with, but I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give up all of that opportunity now because I'm going to exchange it for dollars. What? Or I'm going to exchange it for anything. Stocks. What? Like nothing has ever come close to this. And I'm telling you, nothing that you could ever purchase or buy has ever come close to Bitcoin, ever in its past. And I'm telling you that what's in front of us is going to put the past to shame. So if what's in front of us is bigger than the past and nothing has come close to Bitcoin in the past, then what are you selling? What are you thinking about selling for? I'm not selling. And no, I'm sorry. I consider myself a Bitcoin maxi, but I'm sorry. I apologize to the segment of Bitcoin maxis who believe that you're not really adopting Bitcoin unless you're spending it. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. This ignores the 4 stages of Bitcoin's evolutionary journey toward becoming a full-fledged money. We don't want to rush that 4-stage process. Collectible, store of value phase, that's where we've just entered. That is the go to the moon phase. And then when that tapers off, you start to get medium of exchange phase. Everyone seems to want to jump to medium of exchange. I don't see Bitcoin used for anything. When can I spend it? When can I flip it for something else? You can do that at the medium of exchange phase. We've just entered the store of value phase. What the heck are you rushing for? We haven't even gotten off the launching pad yet, and you want to get out of the rocket ship? No, we start flipping this for things that we want and things of that nature in phase 3, medium of exchange. We've just entered phase 2, the rocket ship phase, store of value phase. And then medium of exchange will naturally bring the 4th into being, unit of account. Do your research, learn these 4 stages, and then you'll know more accurately what the proper action in each stage is. It is not proper, unless you have to, it is not proper to be spending store of value money. It is proper to start spending medium of exchange money. And we're not there yet. And stop rushing this, because you're rushing the biggest number go up stage of the 4. Stop trying to rush medium of exchange. Stop it once and for all. What I teach my traders to do with MicroStrategy is that we approach it as a medium-term cyclical play. So someone asked me today, Oliver, should I consider holding MicroStrategy long-term like I hold Bitcoin long-term? I would say, I'm not doing that, okay? I personally, and what I teach my traders is that MicroStrategy is not a long-term play. MicroStrategy is a leveraged bet on Bitcoin that can be used as extra juice during certain parts of the Bitcoin cycle to add extra jet fuel to your Bitcoin stash. Use that way. But it can also be used to hedge your Bitcoin stash in the bear market. That's the other side. Okay. It's a great hedge against Bitcoin's decline during the bear market. It has 1 full year of a bear market every 4 years. And we can use MicroStrategy to hedge that. We might be able to do this so artfully that we experience plus gains during the bear market as well, using MicroStrategy as that hedge. So that's flipping to the other side with MicroStrategy. How can that be a long-term hold? In addition to that, there are multiple vehicles that we can use in this cyclical way with MicroStrategy. Not only the underlying stock, we can use the options on that underlying stock, and maybe sometimes even the bonds, the convertible bonds. I'm not quite sure how many people realize, but MicroStrategy has the best performing bonds on planet Earth over the past 4 years. Guess who else is in the top 2 over the last couple of years? Best bonds in the world: MicroStrategy and El Salvador. How crazy is that? The best bonds in the world are Bitcoin-oriented bonds. It's already starting to conquer the bond world. How crazy is that? So that's that, guys. I am a big believer in MicroStrategy. I'm just not a big believer in holding MicroStrategy for me long term. It is a thing to play cyclically. I believe that there is nothing else other than Bitcoin today worthy of a long-term hold. Did you hear what I said? Oh, traders, did you hear what I said? I'm going to repeat this. I believe that as of today, because we have Bitcoin, now that we have Bitcoin, there is nothing else on planet Earth, nothing else available to the human species that is worthy of a long-term hold. Some people might argue, well, Oliver, there's diversification. What about diversifying? Diversify to what? Like, dude, Bitcoin is so far ahead of everything else that everything else doesn't even know Bitcoin is in the race. You know how like number 1 in a race can get so far ahead that number 2 thinks they're number 1 because they don't see number 1 anymore? Oh, wow. No one's in front of me. I guess I'm number 1. That's the freaking NASDAQ. 16% annualized gains, and that's not sustainable. But 16% annualized gains over the past 10 years, 16%? Are you kidding me? Bitcoin does that in a day, can do that in a day. We're talking millions and millions of percent versus second place, 16%? What? Like, when you diversify, guys, things that are relatively close, you understand? You don't diversify yourself out of the number 1 winner if that number 1 winner is so far in a different galaxy that it's not even fair to make a comparison. So don't diversify concentrate. Put all your, I am telling you this. All right. I guess to be fully responsible, I should tell you that I'm not giving you financial advice. But I will say this. What I had my kids do, I had my kids put everything, all of their eggs, their entire trust funds in Bitcoin, all of it, 100%. Do you understand? 100%. After decades of having a diversified trust fund, 100% in Bitcoin. So putting all your eggs in one basket and watching that basket very closely, but knowing you've got the right basket. To me, it makes zero sense to take away the opportunity that number one offers, the number one that's in a different galaxy. Diversification is not totally bad, but I've never been a big believer in wide diversification. I've been a big believer in concentration, and it served me very well throughout my professional life. And so I'm not a diversifier. I'm a concentrator. Do you understand? And I've done this before. I had periods where I had 100% of my assets practically in Microsoft. Then I had practically 100% in Apple. And then I moved from almost 100% in Apple to Amazon. Do you understand? And then I moved from almost 100% in Amazon to the next big play was gold. And then the next big play was NVIDIA. But all the way back in 2010, you guys are talking about NVIDIA now. I've been in NVIDIA since 2010. My traders can tell you here. So, and of course, now the next one rolling into is Bitcoin. I've done these concentrated bets my whole life. And they've served me extraordinarily well. But I think Bitcoin is the mega one, guys. This is the mega one. Like it is practically already put everything I've ever done to shame. And it's just getting started. There's no need to put into anything else long term. Now, can you play other things medium term, short term? Absolutely. I do that every day. I'm talking about long term and continuing to add to it long term. No. Why take that firepower away from number one? Why do that for number 20 and number 30 and number 17 and number 10? Why? It's stupid. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does this make sense? No one's going to speak to you this directly because it's taboo. It's taboo. Oliver, diversification. They just parrot these words that they've heard all their lives without really thinking of it. Diversification is an excuse for a lack of talent. All the successful market players I've ever come in contact with throughout my 4 decades of Wall Street experience, all of them, they were never diversifiers. They were concentrated bettors. They put the work in to find the very best thing and they concentrated. Nobody diversified. That's what they teach the retail crowd. Yeah, diversify. Because if I get you to go into 15 different things, I get 15 different commissions. But I can't make commissions if you just buy one thing. Bitcoin, that's it. Where are my commissions going to come from? Can you talk more about the process of how it will work to borrow against your Bitcoin from beginning to end, how to pick a company? Do they actually hold it? Guys, I don't want to go into great detail with this because this is a topic that I have pounded the table on for quite some time. I believe that I have taught for a very long time, even before there was Bitcoin, people. I've taught my traders that wealthy people do not sell hard assets, not very frequently. Wealthy people don't sell, they borrow. We live in a debt-based society. So the way you win in a debt-based society is to use debt. Poor people sell. Do you understand me? I've taught this for decades. Do you understand? I've taught my baby traders who started making money, I've taught them these wealth concepts. You don't sell. I'm not talking about trading for income. I'm talking about when you go into real assets, when you're socking away and building your wealth through real assets, you don't sell them. You borrow against them. You live from the borrowings against them. Why? Because you don't want to get rid of an appreciating asset, one that will appreciate forever. Why give that to someone? Keep that. Well, how are you going to live? You live by borrowing against this asset that will rise in value forever. Why would you live off of it? Because it's not taxable. Do you understand this? Wealthy people try not to be taxed as much as possible. So they live off of borrowed money. All right. So how do they borrow money? They have assets that are that they can use as collateral. What's the best asset? What's becoming the best asset in the world as collateral? Bitcoin. Bitcoin is becoming the apex collateral, becoming the premier pristine collateral in the world. Why? Because it has no third-party risk. All other collaterals have third-party risk. It has no nation-state threats against it. It trades 24 hours a day. It's highly liquid and it's globally desired. You can sell $1 million worth of Bitcoin on a Sunday morning over a freaking cup of coffee. Try doing that with a building on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. I got to get out of my building. It's Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Can I get out of this building, please? All right. So there is no better collateral in the world than Bitcoin. And financial organizations today are scrambling to custody Bitcoin and to be able to build these types of financial services with collateralized Bitcoin. And so, guys, in the next 2 years, you will have red carpets rolled out in front of you. People will be begging, dying, in fact, begging you to come through the door. Let us show you what we can do for you now that you are a Bitcoiner. Or you're a Bitcoiner? Well, come this way. And at the end of the walkway will be a table, a desk with Dom Perignon waiting to say, what in the world do you want? Anything your heart desires. You're a Bitcoiner. You think I'm joking? You think I'm being facetious? You're going to see. You're going to see. The third layer on top of Bitcoin, because money is a layered system, people. The third layer is financial services. So you got layer one, base layer money, that's Bitcoin. Layer two, the quicker and speedier moving of that base layer money over space. That is what the purpose of a layer two is. Base layer one money is not supposed to be fast. Don't let the shitcoiners fool you. Base layer money is supposed to be slow. The foundation of an entire building is not supposed to be fast. It's supposed to be freaking rock solid. The base layer foundation of the globe's monetary system is not, you don't want that to be fast. You don't want that to be very athletic. You want that to be standing still. Stand still. Don't move. Be sturdy. Be solid. Be immovable. So Bitcoin is base layer money. You don't want the speed there. The speed will help sacrifice its foundational aspects. You don't want that. The second layer, you can bring speed. You want to bring speed? Keep that base layer secure. Second layer, that's layer 2. Layer 3 is services, loans, collateralized this, that's coming. And it's going to come to every financial institution on planet Earth. And it is at this stage that you're going to realize how elite Bitcoin holders are. But Oliver, I'm an ETF holder. Okay, cool. But you're not as elite as a real Bitcoin holder. You're going to find out. You're going to find out the difference in a very big way. Is your shit accessible on Sunday morning, 9:30 over a cup of coffee? Oliver, I have the Bitcoin ETF. All right. Yeah, but is it accessible to you at 9:30 on a Sunday morning over a cup of coffee and with your friends? No. Do you still have to seek permission to get it, to sell it, to do anything with it? Yes, that's not Bitcoin. So you're going to find out, especially when layer 3 starts being mapped out, and it's currently in the process. You're going to find out the difference between a real holder of Bitcoin and paper Bitcoiners. You're going to find out that difference huge. And you're going to wish that if you don't have the real thing, you're going to wish you did the real thing. You're going to wish, and it's going to be too late because it's going to be so high in price that your little $100 DCA later is going to do so little for you. You're going to curse the day you didn't get real Bitcoin in self-custody. I promise you this. Just like every cycle in the past, there's thousands of people who are cursing every single day they wake up. Do you understand? Every single day they wake up, they curse it because they had Bitcoin and now they don't. All right, eClap says breaking down and pounding the observation of adding a 0 every 4 years. Yes, I've done this before. I hope you all know, right, that Bitcoin adds a 0 every cycle, every 4 years. Bitcoin operates on 4-year cycles. Every presidential year is a halving. It works on a 4-year cycle, right? Every 4 years, Bitcoin adds a 0. So if you want, I can go over this with you. Here's the entire life of Bitcoin. So every 4 years, it adds a 0, sometimes 2, but it's really supposed to add 1. So let me just show you this. So we start at 0. And then at the first halving, we add a 0. We add a 0. We add a 0. We add a 0. And this cycle is to add a 0. Tell me you understand the add a 0 every cycle concept here. So we are in the 100,000 cycle. Last cycle was the 10,000 cycle, 2020. This cycle is the 100,000 cycle. Now, every cycle, listen to me carefully, every cycle, Bitcoin just doesn't go to the 0. It greatly supersedes the 0. Do you understand? So for instance, in the 10,000 cycle, it almost went to 100,000 by it almost touched 70,000. So last cycle was the 70,000, was the 10,000 cycle. It went to 70,000. This cycle is the 100,000. Is it going to go to 700,000? 500,000? It's not just going to, it never just goes to the zero. It goes way past the zero. Last cycle again was 10,000. It went to 70,000. It's 7 times the zero. What if it's 7 times timed this zero, 100,000? That's 700,000. What if it did more than that because all the other cycles never had institutional sponsorship, regulatory clarity, spot Bitcoin ETFs, presidential elect presidents talking about making it a reserve asset, small countries adopting it as medium of exchange, countries diving into Bitcoin mining? We never had all of these things in the past. So is it possible that now that we have them, that this cycle and those in front of us are more explosive? I say yes. It adds a zero every 4 years, but it greatly supersedes that zero. It greatly passes it. So 10,000 became 70,000. 100,000 this cycle is going to become what? 700,000, 800,000, a million, 400,000, 300,000. Who knows? But it's not going to just be 100,000. Not if history's any guide. And I'm always telling you, it is a guide. It's the only guide. The only guide we have is history. Otherwise, you're spitting in the wind, my friend. If you're not using history, you're spitting in the wind. About Bitcoin options, all right? This is similar, guys, to what I said about MicroStrategy, but options are a very, very important component of Bitcoin's adoption and growth. Please understand this. This is my domain. I've done nothing with my life except one thing. My whole life is I've only traded financial markets my whole life since the age of 16. I've done nothing else since the age of 16. I've never had a plan B. I've never had another job trading financial markets. And I'm telling you that most people who don't have my background fail to understand how important adding options to Bitcoin is. Opens the floodgates for adoption of big money. Big money can now manage their moves in the asset because of options. Options is one of the number one hedging tools, one of the number one wealth management tools. Everyone uses them with big money. You have to, okay? More so than futures. Futures too, but options by far the number one item. And so Bitcoin would never get true gargantuan money without options. Now that options are coming to Bitcoin, it's OMG. Do you understand? It also options will guarantee, listen to me carefully. I know how dangerous guarantees are. I'm going to give you a guarantee. You will never see a bear market the way the past bear markets were. Never, 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 Oliver, never, 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 never. You will never see a bear market like before. Never again. Those are gone. That's something you'll read about in the history books about Bitcoin. Wow, Bitcoin used to drop 85%. Not in the future. Not with options. Nope, not going to happen. Not with institutional adoption. Nope, not going to happen. Your declines have already been less and less and less, shallower and shallower without institutions, without options. Now you're going to really see shallow bear markets. It's not going to make sense to try to time an exit and get back in on the bottom. Yeah. First of all, you're not that good. Trust me. Number one. Number two, your wife or your significant other is not going to let you, even if you got lucky and sold the top. Now you want to go back in? Trust me, your significant other has already spent the money. 18 months later, when it's time to do that, you blew it on some bullshit. You don't have it now. It's not like you're going to lock it away and not touch it. Oliver, I'm going to sell the top and get back in at the bottom, and I'll have more Bitcoin that way. Yeah, right. In your dreams, buddy. Yeah, yeah. What worlds? Disneyland, Disney World. That's the world. Guys, if I can't do it, you're definitely not doing it. How much Cardano do you have, Oliver? Fantolan 942. I will tell you this. If I could actually have negative Cardano, I would have it. Negative. It should be obliterated from planet Earth. I hate that thing, man. Sorry, hate it. I'm not fond of that founder either. He's like that. I would have beat him up in school. I know it. If he was in grade school with me, I would have beat him up every day. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm sorry. I would have done it. Okay. Can you explain this a bit more? Plan B says you can sell the top and buy back again in the next cycle. Yes, you can. You can sell the top, wait 18 months, 12 to 18 months later, sell the exact top, right? Wait 12 to 18 months and pick the exact bottom. Yes, you can. All right. And when you do that, then you wake up and then you realize, I missed my opportunity. I'll never get Bitcoin again. Guys, come on, stop it. Stop it. Please stop it. All right, I'm not going to go into the long rant now. You can't. You won't. Do you understand? You won't. You will think this is the top and it will double on you. You will think the top is not yet in and it will drop 45% on you. Even if you get lucky, you're not going to hold on to the money. I promise you, you won't have it when it's time. That's even if you know when it's time. Most people who believe that they could do this are still waiting for Bitcoin 3,000. We're at 70,000. Some are waiting for Bitcoin 12,000. Some thought the low was 30,000 and they got knocked out of the blocks and they have no Bitcoin today because it went to 15,500. Dude, come on, guys. Come on. I have just sit here and explained to you, wealthy people don't sell. Do you understand me? They don't. They borrow. How do you think there's generational wealth? Selling shit? You think that families that have amassed generational wealth, that they've done so selling their assets? Think about this. Think about this. Every single generational wealthy family you know has gotten that way by holding assets. They don't sell, guys. Poor people sell. This is a game that is sold to poor people to get your assets. Do you understand this? If I teach you to sell, I get your asset. If I teach you to sell your Bitcoin, I get your Bitcoin. It's a game that's been played against the poor for time immemorial. Let me give you a story. After the Emancipation Proclamation, which supposedly ended slavery in the United States, there was a law that every freed slave was to get 40 acres of American land and a mule. Go look this up. It's called 40 acres and a mule. The 40 acres and a mule law. So every freed slave supposedly got 40 acres of land. Do you know what 40 acres of prime American land back in the 1770s, the 1800s, 40 acres? Every freed slave got 40 acres and a mule, supposedly. Okay, we know some didn't, but that's what they were supposed to get. The ones that got it, do you think they have the 40 acres? Do you think that generational wealth stayed in those freed slaves' families until today? Do you really think so? No. Do you know what happened? They sold it. Here's what happened. There was a concerted effort, right? But now that the freed slaves got 40 acres and a mule and could now go into business for themselves, tilling the land, there was a concerted effort to do no business with a slave that was tilling his own land. And so the slaves, the freed slaves, had 40 acres and a mule, and they could farm for themselves. They could support themselves, but no one would buy from them. Things got so tough that the former slave owners and some business people would go to the families that had 40 acres and say, listen, if you sign this document, all right, we will buy from you your work, the fruits of your labor from this land. We will buy all of it from you, and you'll be able to support your family for life. But you have to sign this document that hands over the piece of land to me. Now, you can live on it. You can stay on it. You can raise your family on it. And I will buy everything that you produce from this land forever. Just sign this document. And that is how 40 acres from millions of slaves was confiscated, taken, disallowed to hold on for generational wealth. Most of these slaves were uneducated, so they couldn't write. And so the people would just say, an X will do. And this is where you have names like Shabazz X and Malcolm X. They did this to signify one of the largest thefts in human mankind. Now, I tell you all of this, people, to tell you that selling prime assets has always been sold to slaves. You're a slave too. You have to work to live on this planet, don't you? Don't you have to pay to survive on this planet? Just because you're an American, don't you have to pay the plantation called America just to be here, just to be in America? Don't you have to pay? Don't you have to give up almost the lion's share of the fruits of your labor to another man just to survive? You're a slave. And what is sold to you, the idea is sold to slaves. Give me your assets. It has been forever. Give me your assets. You're not responsible enough to hold it. I will hold it for you. I will keep your assets safe for you. I will protect your wealth from you. Give it to me. Let me hold it. Give me the deed. Let me hold it in my vault. Let me hold it in custody. This is the poor, the message to the poor forever. Give me your wealth. I am telling you that it is time to play, to flip the game and to play the wealth game with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the first asset that gives us the ability to hold it ourselves. I am not giving another man my wealth. I'm not letting you look over it. I'm not letting you get your fat, sweaty palms on my hard work, on my generational wealth for my children, my family. For the first time, we can say, no, I'm holding my own land, my own property, my own wealth. I'm holding the future of my generation after generation after generation. I'm going to be responsible for it. You're not going to have it anymore. And I'm not selling it to you. I don't care what price you take it. Take it to $1 million of Bitcoin. You will not get it from me. But Oliver, what about 5 million? No. 10 million? No. I know that what the elites want is to outprice you. And it will happen. You will be outpriced out of Bitcoin, out of the generational aspect, out of the generational wealth possibility that Bitcoin gives you. You're going to be outpriced because you're not acting big enough. You're not acting aggressively enough. You're failing to see what this is. The first opportunity we've ever had to hold our own shit. Do you understand? And you're fucking it up. You're still acting like a slave. But Oliver, let them hold it for me in the ETF. That's a slave mentality. Do you understand? That's like the former slave owner saying, I'll buy all of the things from your farm as long as you sign here. Like, yeah, I'll give you all of the Bitcoin gains, but I hold the Bitcoin. Same shit over and over and over again. I will hold the land, you can live there. I will hold the property, but you can benefit from the gains on the property. I will hold the deed, but you can rent it out. Same bullshit sold to the poor slaves for time immemorial. And it is time to wake the fuck up. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Am I being too harsh? Oliver, stop talking to me so hard. Oliver, no one speaks to me this way. No, why do the naysayers always sound like that? That's how I read their comments and I imagine that they sound like that and their fingers are like this. But Oliver, and their elbows are close. Oliver, but Oliver. Guys, I'm not saying that you can't utilize the ETFs or whatever. I'm just saying that the bulk of your wealth should not be there. You know, you need self-custody. You need that. And I told you, once layer 3 starts to be built on top of Bitcoin, you're going to start seeing how more special you are as an actual holder of Bitcoin. No one on this planet is going to convince me, guys, right? No one on this planet is going to convince me that no, holding the carbon copy of something is better than holding the real thing. I'm not sure if that's the way it works on your planet, but on this one called planet Earth, no. Holding the real Mona Lisa is very different than holding a good painted rendition of it. So no, you're going to find out the difference between an owner of the real thing in short order and an owner of a papered version of the real thing. You're going to find out. And some of you are going to be very sorry you did not have real Bitcoin. I know this. It's coming to some of you listening to me right now because you won't listen. Your plans while you're away from socials, rest and relaxation, hobby, family, travel, etc. will miss you. Guys, I'm just stepping away from my daily response. I've treated this as a daily responsibility. Please understand that. There has been no day over the last 2 years I have not tried to answer every single question. I've not liked every single comment. I've not answered every single DM. That's not sustainable for me. And so, yeah, I actually wish that I made my promise to 70,000. I would have been gone already. But I'll stick it out until 100. You guys aren't the easiest bunch, let me just tell you. You are not easy. You are not easy. Okay. Not by a long shot. Jimmy says after two, it's interesting. After 100,000, Jimmy says, it's really too late for people who are just starting to buy Bitcoin, technically, but it's always better to change fiat for Bitcoin at any rate because fiat is slowly dying. Yes, and actually not so slowly at this stage. But guys, I still think that there are generational wealth opportunities. I still think that there are generational wealth opportunities, even above 100,000. But I believe that the problem, even though that there are, the problem is the amount of Bitcoin that you get per fiat unit is so small. It's still there. You'll likely have to work harder over longer periods of time. And this is why I'm constantly pounding the table that your time is limited. You can't afford to take a lackadaisical stance with this, guys. Every cycle, it repeats the same thing. It makes people, tens of thousands of people, regret for the rest of their lives that they were not more aggressive. You think this cycle with all of these new things that Bitcoin has now, if it did it in the past without these things, you think with these things, FASB rule changes that no longer makes it punitive for publicly traded companies to own it and hold it on the balance sheet. US presidential candidates running on a Bitcoin platform, speaking about using it as a reserve asset. Regulatory clarity, spot Bitcoin ETFs. Guys, Bitcoin went from a 9-page document to the 10th most valuable item on planet Earth in 15 years. It went from a freaking piece of paper to a $1.4 trillion asset, the 10th most valuable thing on the entire planet, the 5th most valuable currency in the entire world, the safest, most secure network human beings have ever known, the hardest money and the hardest asset, meaning hard to produce more of, the hardest asset that human beings have ever been exposed to, the best performing asset in the history of human mankind. It did all of this from a piece of paper in 15 years without a management team, without a marketing effort, without a single investment from anybody. If you can't see how special that is, that it has, from a piece of paper, outperformed everything that human beings have ever held dear. If there's anything that the human race has held dear, it has destroyed it in 15 years. Anything that we've respected, it's destroyed it. I respect NASDAQ. The NASDAQ destroyed it. The S&P 500 destroyed it. Real estate destroyed it. Gold destroyed it. Anything that you have ever held dear, it has pummeled it. And it has done so with every single major country in the world attacking it every single day of its existence. It has done so with less than 1% of the entire world accepting it. It has accomplished all of this with the entire globe's media machine against it. So can you imagine what's going to be now that all of that's turning? When's the last time you've seen a FUD article on it uses too much energy? Duh. When's the last time you've seen one of those? So, guys, I'm going to tell you one more time. Your time is so limited. I would be in a perpetual, you understand? A perpetual panic state, especially if you haven't yet got to one full Bitcoin. What the hell are you doing? What are you doing? What's more important than this? Nothing. Nothing. There is nothing more important than this. Outside of, I'm not talking about your health and God and things of that nature. You understand what I'm saying? But as it relates to your financial life, nothing is more important than this. Nothing. Jets, I, for one, actually think you are an absolute idiot. How's that? All right. We're talking about something that has practically taken over the world, that is quickly becoming the monetary standard all over the globe, that has the potential of ending all the Federal Reserve Bank robbery from human beings' effort, becoming the world reserve currency. And you're sitting here and you think the important thing, the thing that's appropriate right now to do is to talk about a freaking meme coin? Guys, sometimes I have no patience for the galactically stupid. Focus, people. All right. No, I use them, guys, to make points. That's fine. I don't really pay them too much attention. I use them to make points. Please feel free to go to that post of mine and continue to add to it. It's very helpful because you give me ideas on what to do some of my future lives on. All right. So feel free to go here and actually just continue to add your questions to this post. I want to thank you for just on such short notice coming out here. There's 2,330 people live here. That's the number that I see. I am blown away by that. Thank you very much. I hope that I've shared something that has enticed you to get up off that ass and smash buy some Bitcoin. All right. Because our time is very limited here. All right. So ciao for now, guys. I'm going to go grab something to eat. All right. Boom. Boom. All right. Easy. Ciao. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there. And until next time. Boom.